Welcome to the Bad Roman Podcast. On this show, we talk with veterans, community leaders, Christians and non-Christians as we explore the entanglement of Christians with the state. The Bad Roman Project was created out of the firm belief that as Christians, we are called to follow Christ, not the state. Here is your host, Craig Hargis.
Hey folks, one thing at the Bad Roman Project that we celebrate quite a bit is anytime we see someone subvert the state and their agenda, even if it seems so small, is when folks in a community decide to buy and sell to and from one another instead of going to the big chain stores. Today, Michael from Copperhead Hill Farms joined me today to tell us all about the importance of buying local and supporting your local farmers and ranchers.
Let's go. Yeah. Left, right, left, right, left. We got our marching orders, man. Left, right, left. We'd rather serve God than serve Caesar, you feel me? Right. I'm just trying to live what he said.
I've been a huge fan of Copperhead Hill Farms for, I guess, 4 years now, because when the Bad Roman Project started, so the opportunity to get to talk to you, this is something I've been thinking about doing for a while because I've followed your stuff and I appreciate the work you guys are doing, the stuff that you guys are talking about when it comes to, hey, this is your daily reminder to buy some raw milk. And Copperhead Hill Farms is doing this with the mindset of no king but Christ. There's something that y'all recognize very early on with the Black Sheep Farmstead, that y'all's original name. Y'all's like, hang on a second, there's something else. We want to be recognized as something else. We recognize something else is going on. But before we get into all that, because I'm fixing to do it again and start going off the rails, Michael, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you and your wife met, because it kind of leads into what we're going to talk about today, because I was reading on your website, y'all have a story about how you guys met and how this all came about. And I think it's a beautiful story, by the way. Like, if nobody takes anything else out of this conversation with me and Michael today, go to copperheadhillsfarm.com and just read their story. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to drink some raw milk afterwards, I promise you. Let's go.
Hey, so a little bit about myself or about us. It's going to be a surprise to you, but it really just adds to the story. So I was born and raised in the outer suburbs of Chicago. And Carrie, my wife, the co-founder of Copperhead Hill Farms, she was born in the outskirts of the country in New Jersey. So you start with that right from the get-go. It's kind of weird how I'm even in front of you today saying, yes, I own and run a farm. But nonetheless, long story long, I joined the Marine Corps at 18 or 19. Same with Carrie. 2012 or 2013, I was already on my second deployment to go to Afghan, and she was on her first, and we had met for the workup for deployment. And then that's where the relationship started, and eventually we got married and then separated from the Marine Corps and moved to New Jersey. In that instance, we had moved to a farm. We were renting from a farmer, and in the off time, I was helping the farmer throw hay. He had one leg. I was just trying to do the guy a favor and do him a solid, just so he could get his hay into his barns, which was very new to me, being a city slicker. But we were involved and indulged in that lifestyle at that point, and I refused. And I don't like to know what my right hand or my left hand to know what my right hand is doing. But I wouldn't let him charge me, or I wouldn't charge him for my time or for helping him out. And it came to a point where he eventually had enough, and he's like, "Fine, if you're not going to let me pay you, then you're going to take these pigs." And there were 2 pigs that he gave us. And literally that was the origin of our farm story. So
I love this because I know you've listened to the show and you've probably got an idea of my upbringing, where I came from and stuff. And so
right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was raised around all this stuff. And you said something about city slicker. I'm outside of Memphis right now, so maybe I'm a city slicker right now. But that does not take away from my country roots. That's something that y'all said in y'all's website about we're going back to the roots. You guys are living it. You guys are doing this. This is your work. When I was a kid, I was pissed off because I had to go into the chicken house and collect eggs and deal with all the chicken garbage and stuff. And I got goats and sheep that I'm chasing around trying to handle. And my granddaddy's trying to put me on a horse, and which is fine. I'm all about riding horses. I was like, but man, I just kind of want to play with my friends right now. Y'all are doing this as work. This is work, but it's what I appreciate about farmers and ranchers. It's not just work. It's a life. It's a lifestyle. This is what This is what we do. And without folks like you and Carrie, how are we going to eat? Do you think all these city slickers out here in the world are going to be like, going to go start raising their own cattle, going to start raising their own chickens? No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Walmart to grab their food. Well, guess what? That food comes from somewhere.
So what you mentioned, returning to our roots, it's huge. And I really want this to be a big part of the conversation. Carrie, even on Carrie's side, she didn't have much farm experience. She worked at a farm when she was in her teenage years before the Marine Corps. And her dad worked on, he ran some cows and stuff. So it's nothing too crazy to where she was a daughter of a huge farming family. But what you had just mentioned is what we are trying to preach and what we are trying to get back to. Way in the olden days, back in the day, everybody and their mom was in some way, shape, or form producing and making or crafting their own food. So you had Larry down the street who grew tomatoes. You had Susan around the corner that made bread, and everyone came together, and the community was taken care of or taken care of through these backyard farmers or homesteaders, if you will. And that's really what we are trying to preach and get people back to, because the only way we're going to starve the system is if we return to our roots. And returning to our roots it's a huge onion and many layers to it for us. But at the start of it, it's just realizing if you have the ability or the capability to farm or to homestead, do it. If you don't, support those that do.
100%, because this is something I've been rolling around in my head quite a bit lately. And I don't know if it sounds naive to folks. Actually, I think it does sound naive to a lot of people. But I would like to get back to a position, because we got all this, well, we've got to do this to make this kind of money. We got to have this kind of money. I would like to get to a point where we're like, why don't we just trade with each other? Maybe we could barter. You got some eggs, I got some tomatoes. You got some milk, I got some asparagus. You know what I'm saying? Like we and I know that sounds, actually, I don't think it sounds naive. I think it's just being idealistic. Like we've gotten so consumed with this idea that we have to work as hard as we can to be getting all this money to make sure we're living comfortably.
Yeah, right.
And at the same time, there's other people out there suffering who could benefit. Just we could figure out a way to just trade with, and like you said, to starve the system. And the system you're referring to is the government, the state, the ones who are putting oppressing everybody else and putting regulations on everything. Dude, I just started making salsa.
Woo, I know. We got to talk about that.
But I'm telling you, and it has taken off like crazy. Like it was a hobby. I was making my own salsa. I know how I like my salsa.
Right.
So I started making the way I like it because I like to eat a lot of eggs, and I put salsa on my eggs. Now, I would talk about it on social media. And I'd have friends be like, hey, I want to try your salsa. I'm like, well, I don't know how to get you salsa. You're in freaking Wisconsin.
Right.
Or you're in Utah. So I was like, well, so I bought some jars and made some salsa. Sent them some, and they love it. And then people are loving the salsa. Yeah. And now all of a sudden they're like, we got to get this in a store. I'm like, hang on a second. Yeah. Calm down. I'm working 6 nights a week.
Right.
Doing podcasts, running a Bad Roman project. I have very little time. And now I'm making 30 to 40 jars of salsa a week and selling it.
Right, yeah.
And now from the hobby, now it's a side hustle, which could potentially turn into something bigger if I got real serious about it. The problem is getting real serious about it is I got to figure out how to get around the state to do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because if I want to get into a store, like I talked to some folks here in Oakland, Tennessee, where I live, and they want to put the salsa in their store. But you know what they said to me? Have you made it legal? I was like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Choo.
That's where I start bristling a little bit. Like, hang on a second. We're doing just fine as an agorist.
Right.
Selling to friends and family, and they're telling their friends and family, nobody cares that I'm making it in my own kitchen and sending it to them. They're cool with it, and they love the salsa. Why can't we just get to that point where, let's starve the system and get the system out of this so we can I can send Michael some salsa, he can send me something, and we could trade.
Right. Well, the answer is it's because it's inconvenient. We are creatures of convenience. And because it involves a little bit of extra work, whether to buy salsa from you or per se to acquire shares from us, from our herd share, it's just that little bit of extra work that people don't like. They'd rather, as you mentioned before, it's just so much easier to go to name brand or big brand stores because it's 10 minutes away. They know where the thing is that they want, and they go to the store, grab it, check out, and then that's it.
Yes, but what they're getting at the store is garbage.
It's absolute garbage, and it comes from people who don't care about you, and that's why we're huge on know your farmer and know your food. Because if you come face to face with us, you're going to see our operation, or even in your case, someone's buying your salsa, they know you. I mean, that's not a relationship that was established at a grocery store. It's one of the biggest things, honestly, is to starve the system. We have to get rid of this habit of wanting convenience. We have to go back and return to our roots and do it as the people that came before us and how we've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years.
Well, see, I've become such a snob about salsa lately, and maybe it is what it is. But I had a jar of salsa, paste picante, no disparaging of paste picante because I ate that stuff for years. But I had a jar in my refrigerator left over, and I ran out of my own salsa. And like I said, I like to put salsa on my eggs. And I put some of this paste picante on my eggs, and I ate it. I was like, this is disgusting.
Right, yeah.
I just finished. I mean, I make my stuff. I make the salsa fresh, and I ship it as soon as I can because I want it to be as fresh as possible. It's not sitting on a short stale for weeks.
Right.
With whatever preservatives they're putting into it. My stuff is shipped immediately because it's got to be refrigerated. It's got to be taken that way. What I'm saying is it's different. When you buy eggs from your local chicken lady, or you buy fresh meat from your local farmer or rancher, whatever, milk, whatever, it tastes different. It's fresh, and there's something, like you said, we're creatures of convenience, and that is such a great point because it's so much easier just to run to the grocery store. Well, guess what? Right. I'm going to ship this salsa right to your front door. You don't have to go anywhere.
Right. Absolutely. Part of it is the community aspect too. People are afraid of or are uncomfortable with interaction. What used to be just a simple click and drag and, ka-ching is now, I have to talk to this farmer, or I have to form this relationship just to get this said food. And for some reason, that is a hindrance for some people, when really it should be the opposite. If you get to know me, talk to me, see how I act, operate, how we do things, I think that's more of a win versus the commercial grocery stores of these mega corporations, where you don't have a face, you don't have a name, you just have this product that's in front of you, and we as a collective just have faith and trust that this product is as it's supposed to or what it says it is. And if you are familiar with mega corporations and how that all the details that go with it, they don't care about you. So
they don't care about you.
They just want your dollar. That's it. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And I mean, this is us, but I truly believe it in its core in the mega corporations and obviously the government that the the adversary, the evil one, is at the root, or is at the helm of all of that. Because when it comes down to is the food, if you control the food, you control the population. And that's where
we saw that in 2020.
Exactly. And somehow, some way, I mean, it did play out. A lot of us woke up, or a lot of people woke up. But we still have those sleepers, or the ones that are really pushing back against this. And it really, again, it's, if we could just return back to our roots, return to being the good stewards of the land, like we're tasked or supposed to, I think we'd be in a better place, honestly. And not even a better place. They would, as I've already said, if you starve the system will cease to exist. And really, it just starts with us. And we are the change, and we need to be that change. And unfortunately, unfortunately, I mean, with us, our herd share is very, very successful. Thanks be to God. And it's really great. We have approximately 80 members right now at the moment. We're moving about 320 gallons of raw milk a week, or of a month. So it's quite a huge milestone for us, being a small farm, but being able to witness that and seeing that people are waking up and seeing that, need to return to our roots, that what we preach, it's really huge. It's an awesome thing to see, for sure. But there is those that are, like I said, there's still those sleeping giants that we are trying to wake up. So,
yeah, well, and that's what we're here for, to keep trying to wake them up. It's something I talk about all the time too. Is I don't believe that I'm going to see a voluntary society on a grand scale in my lifetime.
Right.
But what I do know is that you said y'all have 6 kids.
Yeah.
What I do know is if we keep doing this, we're leaving something better for those folks. Like I have a niece and nephew. I don't have any children of my own, but I have a niece and nephew who I adore. And I know what I grew up in, what we're living in right now. I don't want them to go through some of the same stuff that we went through. I want it to be easier for them, and to make things easier for the kids and their kids and their kids. We've got to get to a point where the system is obsolete.
Absolutely.
That seems so scary to a lot of folks. What do we do without the system?
Right.
You know what? We're going to be just fine.
F the system, man.
Yeah, God and his plan existed way before the system ever came about.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't have to go to my local farmer and rancher's house and spend time with them every day.
No, absolutely not. No.
I can go pick up what I need. I can give them what they need, and then I go back to my house and be just fine.
Right. It's literally that easy.
The same way you go to a grocery store and do. How many of the folks at the grocery store that you know them by name?
Right. Absolutely.
You don't.
Nope, you don't.
They have all the stuff you need, so that's where you go. Well, guess what? There's people across this land that have all the stuff you need, and it's way better quality food. It's way better. To me, it's more personable because it's something that is missed in community. I think that's what drives a lot of the folks who are introverts. When they don't want to be involved with that stuff because they're introverts. I get it, but you don't have to be like friends. Just trade.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then it just blows our mind, and blows my mind, because if you really take a walk down those aisles at the grocery store, that's not food. There is hardly, I'd be bold to say, there's hardly any food that exists in any grocery store. It is all industrial byproducts. It's chemicals, harmful chemicals, carcinogens. It's all absolute garbage. And honestly, by my belief, or by my standards, I think it's all by design. I think it is. I
was just fixing to say that, actually, because
exactly
it has to be.
It's
because it seems like they want to keep us unhealthy. Because if we're unhealthy, if we're sick all the time, we're going to be more dependent on the drugs that they're going to give us to keep us alive.
Exactly, and that's where it comes down.
We'll stay alive. Just eat healthy.
That's it. That's it. If you can realize that big ag, big pharma, big milk, you name it, whatever it is, the big corporations or the big government funded agencies or alphabet agencies, they are all work together, and they all have their hands in each other's pockets. If we could just return to our roots, if we could bring back the backyard homesteader, the small farm, the world would change overnight.
And you guys are in Michigan too, and I'm in Tennessee. So there's a misconception too about ranchers and farmers. They're all in the South. That's not true.
No, absolutely not. And we don't have a lot of land. We're blessed with what we have. We have 30 acres, but people are under this mindset like, oh, I don't have land, I can't do that. No, you can. If you have a backyard, if you have a balcony, if you have whatever, you could go to a local farm store, get one of those little tiny chicken coops. You could put it on your balcony. You could raise chickens. It's literally that easy. But the biggest thing, again, creatures of convenience, that's inconvenient, it's scary, it's uncomfortable. But at the same time, too, it's just we are riddled with excuses because of this inconvenience or because of the comfortability that we have. And really, it takes. We have a fellow friend who runs it's Baker's Green Acres. They have this talk show, and little movement called Anyone Can Farm. And in there, they preach exactly that anyone can farm. Maybe not necessarily, or people might try it and say it's not for me, and then try to okay, I'll support farms, but I can't do it. Especially in reference, if you're familiar with the God Made a Farmer, I believe it's a poem, but it just talks about the grit and dexterity that is required to be a farmer, and how God made us specifically, what I believe, us specifically to bear the storm and see it through. So, but why we preach what we preach is, especially where I say it everywhere and anywhere, grow and raise your own. Like I've said, grow and raise your own, or support those that do. If you have the ability to do so, to grow and raise your own, I don't know why you're not already doing it. And if you can't, why are you not supporting the farmer right down the street that you pass on your way to work? Instead, one of our Hertshire members, I love it. It's fantastic. So they pass a big dairy farm, commercial dairy farm, on their way to work. And I had shared a story on Instagram from raw milk and deadlifts, and it was a post about raw milk. And she messaged us, and she's like, "This is so hilarious because I literally just passed so and so to get to you guys and pick up my raw milk for the day." And that right there, this just it made me so freaking happy, because that's, if you read in the website, this is why we do what we do. It's because of that. It's from the commercial farming. It's from the factory farming, the industrialization of what farming has turned into. And it's what we need to rip ourselves away from and return back to the garden. Because I don't see glory. We don't see glory in what factory farming or industrial farming is, or what it provides. There should not be three or four farmers that feed the world. Again, it should be, like as I said, go back to the backyard farmer. The community takes care of itself, and that's ultimately how you can get it. The whole, like I just said, this crazy ideal that a few farmers have to feed the entire population is asinine, and that's where you get into all these standards and governmental regulations that don't even need to exist, because it's mostly with quality control.
Well, it's like I was saying earlier about like making salsa and stuff. When they said make it legal to put it in their store, I'm like, man, you just lost me, because you don't understand who you're talking to, first of all. I didn't walk into the shop and say, "Hey, I'm an anarchist. Will you put my salsa in your store?" And by the way, folks, if you run into me at a grocery store and you're in the salsa aisle, I'm judging you immediately if you're buying that salsa off that shelf, because I got something way better at home.
I got a bone to pick with you then, buying chicken eggs at the store there, buddy.
I know.
Don't even
I know.
start. Don't even start.
Hey, I know. And you made that comment after we shared the our conversation with voluntarism in action. I get it, dude. Trust me, because there's a house right down the street in my neighborhood that had a sign out that says chicken eggs, and I bought 60 eggs from these folks. Trust me, and I'm all about buying fresh eggs because she told me that they're laid daily, but they took the sign down. So I don't even know if they have eggs anymore, if it's just because it's wintertime right now or whatever. Maybe chicken's laid. I don't know what it is, but they don't have the sign up.
We're going to have some words, buddy. We're going to have some words.
And they taste so much better than what I'm going to get at the store. I understand that. I get it. I don't even care if they cost a little bit more. It's about the quality. It's about, and maybe let's talk about that. Is there something about, is it the cost that maybe drives people away? Like if you go to your local farmer and rancher, it's going to cost a little bit more compared to what you're going to get at the grocery store. Is there something about that might be driving folks away from supporting their local farmers and ranchers?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big part of it. And unfortunately, fortunately, because we're not at the mercy, or us specifically, I'll speak for myself or for our farm. We're not at the mercy of being having our prices and things like that regulated. Whereas commercial farmers, their milk's regulated, their crop is regulated, so on and so forth. But then, unfortunately, at the same time, being a small operation or smaller farm, things cost a lot more for us in the grand scheme of things. Like for our milk, for example, we feed our cows are exclusively grass fed and grass finished, whether depending on if they're dairy or if they're used for beef. But even on this milking station, they receive non-GMO, high quality alfalfa. That stuff costs a lot of freaking money,
right?
And things like that people just don't understand. And unfortunately, it's part of the plague that we have brought onto ourselves with the streamline and desensitization of our food.
So if we got away from I think if I'm understanding you correctly, if we got away from going to the grocery store and supporting our local farmers and ranchers, like the feed that you're feeding your cows, the price of that would drop.
Right, it could exponentially, absolutely.
There's a reason why the state does this.
Right.
There's a reason why. Because they don't want folks like Michael and Carrie to succeed in what they're doing because they're going outside of what the state regulates. And that's something about like when you like, this is not an advertisement for my salsa. I should probably record a commercial so my producer can insert this in about the salsa for the Bad Roman project. But
all good.
Salsa, the stuff's fresh. It's fresh, and people have told me more than once that it tastes so fresh. I said because it is. I just made it. It didn't sit on Kroger's shelf for 3 weeks.
That's the way. That is the way for sure. So in the origin of our herd share, we joined and teamed forces with a foundation called the Legal Defense Fund, our Farmers to Consumers Legal Defense Fund, and they specialize in things like this: small farmers or small businesses that produce a food product, and it essentially is just that, as you're referring to, it provides you with a like a legal buffer, if you will, against the state or those that would wish or try to come towards you or against you. But we teamed up with them, and it's been great, really great. But really, what really opened our eyes when we were, as you've been saying, that we're doing this, we're in the deep of it. Upon joining the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund in the mail, and I meant to grab it. I forgot to grab it because I was going to show you, but it's a fridge magnet that goes through the steps to for what you're supposed to do when you get raided by a state or governmental agency coming to raid your operation. So right there, when that happened, it's like, okay, we're heading in the right direction, because clearly, and if you do your research, that the feds, they go after small farms because they have the ability to, or the numbers to do so. And further, it's because what we are doing, or the message we are trying to preach, is returning to our roots, getting back to growing our own food. They don't like that.
Can I ask you something about that? Because somebody brought something to my attention when I was talking about the salsa on our Facebook page. And are you familiar? I don't know if this is the same thing you're talking about. PMA.
Yeah, right.
Is that the same thing you're talking about? Kind of.
A PMA, yeah. So a private membership association is essentially, it's kind of like that, close to it. We ourselves made a PMA, if you will, with the herd share, with our herd share.
Okay.
And farm to consumer, they helped us. They really helped us draft up the legal entity, or wrap up the legal aspect of all that. But essentially what our herd share is just this. It's a voluntary means. People come to us because we have said product, which is our raw milk. They join our herd share, and they then become a member in the efforts and the ability to obtain shares from us from our farm. So then they actually become a quote owner of the farm, and they are allotted, per their agreement, whatever they come on to sign on for, they get that said amount of milk, or whatever it is that they're after from us. And through that,
the way the PMA was described to me, and I'm so ignorant to it, because it was just, I never heard of it until I started talking about making my own salsa. And somebody commented on the post on the Facebook page, and she was talking about the PMA. And so I'm in a PMA group on Facebook, but I haven't interacted. I have not engaged with these folks because I don't know. I don't completely understand it. But the way it was explained to me in just a little bit of detail, they are able to help you work around like the legal type stuff that the state's going to try and force on you.
Absolutely. That's why I say herd share we run is kind of like that, because in Michigan it's illegal to sell raw milk. So in a attempt to still provide raw milk, we established the herd share, which allows people to own shares of our farm and allows them then to become owners of the said, like, for instance, of the raw milk, versus where we're not selling it. It's available to them because they are, they play a part and own a part of the farm or the herd share. So it's not, the PMA is to my understanding is structured a little or is a little more structured and actually its own standing thing.
Okay.
So I say it loosely that our herd share is kind of like a PMA.
I probably need to pay more attention to that. Like if this salsa thing ever kind of just takes off, I wouldn't mind sitting at home making some salsa instead of going to work 6 nights a week, working 60, 70 hours a week for somebody else, and I could just sit at home, make some salsa for my friends.
You could say that again, brother. And that's what it comes down to too for us, is just independence. We want exactly that, what you're talking about.
Like if you're just working for yourself and providing for other people, that's what I said earlier. I don't know if I'm being idealistic or naive when I say this. Why can't we just trade? Why does there have to be some kind of dollar bill involved with it? And I get it. Not everybody wants to make salsa or raise cattle or go to the chicken coop and pick up eggs. I get it. But you got a skill. You got something.
Yeah.
That you could provide for that your local farmer and rancher that they might need that they're not doing, and you could barter. I know that sounds, I don't know if that sounds childish. I don't know what that, but to me, it just sounds so simple. And I think it's just getting back to being simple about how we live our lives. That sounds like what I want. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. When it becomes complicated, it's like I said, going to the shop and bringing salsa to them. Is it legal? Then it gets complicated. It's not complicated to send salsa to friends and family across the country.
No.
Or to sell to folks here in town. That's not complicating to me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But to put it in somebody's store to make it legal because the state says so, that's when I bristle. That's why I start bucking. I'm like, hang on a second. I guess I'll work 60, 70 hours a week at work and still make everybody else salsa. Because I don't want the state involved with this stuff. I don't want the state to come in and say, you have to do this. I don't want them in my house inspecting my kitchen, first of all.
I hear it. I feel your frustration. I preach this until I'm blue in the face. And it's to the point at times where I feel like I'm saying it to a wall. But I mean, again, back to what I said, we are creatures of convenience. And if you've ever seen Wall-E, the Disney movie, where all the morbidly obese people are riding around on these technological wheelless chairs, they get taken everywhere that they want to, and they can eat whatever they want.
Just walk.
You would think so, but we now live in this, again, like we said, by design. It is like this for a purpose, but really us as believers and followers of Christ, it's up to us to, I believe, to stab the freaking snake in the head and pin it down to the ground and rid ourselves of this, because it's not working. And we have to go back. Just go back. It's like that it's that meme where there's the evolution, and then it's the last one where it says, we effed up, turn around. That's exactly where we're at. We have stumbled and forced ourselves through in so many different ideals and facets, this industrial mindset and way of living that we have been born into, forced into, worked for, slaved for. We need to go back. We have to break it and get away from it, because if we don't, it's going to be our demise. And of course, Christ is king, and Christ wins in the end. But for me and my own, I feel like it's a purpose of mine to be vigilant in the sense and take on the evil one in this aspect. Because his hands and the government they have a control and a grasp on every single thing when it comes to our production of food, and it's our own faults. It really is. Do you think
that? Actually, I know the answer to this. I don't even have to ask you, but I'm going to say it because this. We understand the state for what it is. We understand how they behave, and that's why we're Christian anarchists. I don't use the phrase anarchist a whole lot anymore, because to me the word has lost a lot of meaning. It's been culturally hijacked. It's
right, absolutely.
You got anarchists running for political office. You got anarchists supporting political parties and stuff. And I just say when folks ask me, why aren't you participating, voting, and all this stuff? Because I'm a Christian.
Right.
And I'll leave it at that. If they want to know more, I'll tell them.
Yeah.
Because there's no king but Christ. This is what we understand. But getting back to what I was going to say is, like, the state survives. The state exists because a lot of folks feel like they need the state to exist. And the state was going to make things as easy as possible for them creatures of convenience to go support things that the state is regulating and make sure that, without laws, without the police, without all this stuff that we hear from your normie type folks, that they act like society would collapse without the state. I'm like, no, it would flourish.
Exactly. Right.
It would flourish without the state. The state is holding us back.
Absolutely.
And they're holding you back because they've made it so easy for you on certain things and made it so difficult for other things that you feel like you need them to make the other things that are difficult easy on them.
Absolutely. Right.
It's a game that they play that you're playing with them. Do you think that there's a way out of it? Again, I know the answer to this. You've been saying it this whole show. Go back, get back to the roots. Return to the roots. Get back to that. Support the local farmers and ranchers. Support your local chicken lady. It's something that Sarah told me on the Voluntarism in Action podcast episode. Find a local chicken lady. She goes, you're probably not going to pay taxes. No, you're not going to pay taxes. Well, the eggs are more expensive than they are at the grocery store. They're not that much more. And guess what? You're not paying taxes to the state. And they're taking, you know what the state's doing with that money? What's the state doing with that money? They're slaughtering people across the world.
Exactly.
That doesn't sound very Christian to me.
It's true. They're going to launder it. They're going to use it in evil sense and corrupt ways. And for me, what people tell us is like, oh, it's so awesome when I come to pick up my milk, I see your kids flying off a ramp on their bikes. Like, that's what you're supporting. You are supporting us in that sense, in our family, our community. You're not arming me with nuclear weapons or anything like that to attack other foreign countries
or another farmer or rancher.
Yeah, another farmer or rancher, right.
If you're not paying taxes to your local chicken lady, guess what? They don't have the means to go attack the local chicken lady.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because if we stop participating in the garbage, guess what happens? The state doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
They're just people. I mean, it's something that Larkin Rose told me on the show when I had him on. He goes, they're just people.
Right.
When we stop believing in their authority and the things that they're telling us we have to do, they're just people.
That's it. And that's one of the biggest problems too, especially in farming, is even in the farming community, you have this facade, if you will, that you have to do this. The government says you have to do this, so you have to do it. And that's not true. If you are your own company, your own business, your own person, you run it the way you wish or you decide or want to. And that's our philosophy on it.
And guess what? If the folks that you're selling raw milk to don't like your raw milk, they'll find somebody else to go to.
And that's what it comes down to.
That's kind of how the whole free market thing works, right?
Absolutely.
Anytime the state's involved, the free market does not exist.
Right.
Anytime the state's involved, there's no capitalism.
Absolutely not.
That's such nonsense that people still buy into that stuff, you know, and I love that we're having this conversation in an election year because people are going to run to the polls because they think Donald Trump's going to save them.
Right.
Hey, folks, we have set up a very simple way to donate to the Bad Woman Project through spotfund.com. Just go to SpotFund and search No King But Christ. This has become necessary to continue to provide a quality podcast and keep production costs down as well. Just $5 or $10 a month will go a long way in helping us keep this project going and continue spreading the very basic message of No King But Christ. So if you like what we were doing and can find it within your budget, go to spotfund.com and search No King But Christ, and you can set up monthly donations or even donate one time. Any and all donations help more than you know, and as always, any donations above production costs will go directly to charities in Memphis, Tennessee. Thank y'all so much. Now back to the show. Let's get back to Copperhead Road. Or Copperhead Hill Farms.
Copperhead Road.
We're going to have to go listen to that song if we get done here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And y'all's website, we were talking about how y'all changed the name from Black Sheep Farmstead to Copperhead Hill Farms for multiple reasons. But who doesn't like a good Steve Earle song, especially Copperhead Road? And you know what? When I read that, dude, I was thinking, I haven't listened to Steve Earle in a minute. But tell us a little bit about that before I let you go, why y'all changed your name from Black Sheep Farmstead to Copperhead Hill Farms. There's multiple reasons. One of the reasons is because of the Steve Earle song, but what were the other reasons why?
We initially started off as Black Sheep Farmstead because we felt we were just initially, as we are, called to be different and do things differently. Like I've said, mainstream industrial farming or factory farming is an absolute abomination. And it really takes the creation of the creator to an unrecognizable state, to where you lose our mission, what we were tasked to do from the very beginning. We were supposed to tend to the garden. We were given dominion over the animals. And with factory farming and industrial farming, we have gotten, I can't say we because we don't do that, but the people that are out there that are doing this for profit versus trying to help their community, to feed their community, to enrich themselves or enrich others. They're doing it to fill their pockets. They're doing it to, whatever the corrupt reasons are for. So in that sense, we felt we were called to be different. And then where you were talking about, we even entertained or talked about or tried doing veganism, just because, again, just an absolute, like as I said, that abomination that occurs within factory farming. And then eventually it came to us that this isn't working. We have to be the change that needs to happen. So we saw the problem, and we figured that we could be part of the solution. Are we going to fix it for everyone? No, absolutely not. We don't believe that. But for our piece of the pie and our local community, yeah, I think we can definitely do that. And then as we are vocal and taking action to get this message out to other people that it is possible, and you too, us too, can be different, and we're called to be different. And this is our mission field. We believe everyone has their mission field, and I think this is where we are called to be, called to serve in more ways than one. So we went from Black Sheep Farmstead. We did that for a little bit, and that was in our time period of just trying to figure things out. We were throwing anything and everything at the wall that we could to try and see what farming really was, trials and errors and ups and downs. And then as we said in I think 2020, all that crazy stuff happened. Or actually 2019 is when we started to make the shift. That's when we came up with the idea for Copperhead. And that was mostly Carrie. She was like, what do you think about changing the name? What? You can't do that. We built this whole thing, blah, blah, blah. But long story long, what it came down to is, one, Copperhead. I'm a wonderful, beautiful ginger. So that's where it comes from. We have beautiful, beautiful redheaded babies. Two, where we're at, we're blessed for the property, the land that we have, but very hilly, and right over the hills every single day in the summertime, you have a Copperhead sunset. So it's just absolutely beautiful. It is so breathtaking. And then thirdly, for as we've talked about, Copperhead Road, and more specifically, it talks about in the song where he volunteered for the army on my birthday, blah blah, so on and so forth, and then he gets out of the army and comes up with a brand new plan. And that was where we were at that time, and more specifically, where we continued to go is. We got out of the Marine Corps and really started to wake up to two things. We got out of that zombie mentality, and as it was stated before at the podcast with VIA, we got out of the belly of the beast, and that's when our eyes really started to open up. And because of that, and with this new plan that we had, we were going to establish this farm and try the best we could to serve as we are called to do, but also try to make a change. Not just it was just for us ultimately, because it came to a point where 2018 timeframe, we got out of homesteading farming. We stopped. We sold everything, and then come COVID, hit like an anvil, or a hammer to an anvil. And we're like, okay, let's get this back going. And from there, we've been 100 miles an hour for sure. And to a sense, to the Copperhead portion, we really like to, or I was joking the other day, I said, we're going to treat raw milk like moonshine, because ultimately, that's where we're at. It is illegal to sell raw milk, and it is one of the most healthiest superfoods that this earth has to offer, that God has given us. And it's, to us, it's make or break. We have to do this, and there's no other option.
I love that, man. I mean, I love that. Nobody can can say that you and Carrie with Copperhead Hill Farms did not at least try.
Right. Absolutely.
We're called to serve, and that's what you're doing. And I think that's beautiful, dude. And I love what you guys are doing. I've been a huge fan of y'all for a while. Like I think, like you said, in 2019 and 2020 is about the same time when the Bad Roman project came to fruition. And when we started, we first started, and it was, we all kind of got connected somehow. And I've been following y'all's page ever since. Because it's the stuff that I grew up around. It's the stuff that I understand, growing up in a small town in West Texas. That's how we lived. It was simple. I wish folks would just get back to things being simple and working together in a voluntary type situation where we can help one another. To me, that's where we should be heading towards, and that's what you guys are doing. And I love that so much about y'all's work.
That's what it is. If we can just realize, us collectively, or even more so than we have right now, if we can just come to realize that all it takes is just putting one foot forward and taking that leap of faith and just trying it, whether it's growing your own food or supporting those that do, it's just that leap of faith, that small little step that's required. And then additionally, if we can realize that any type of corporation, regardless of the size, especially the mega corporations, they are entangled with the state. They are infused with the government. And you giving them your dollar is just the same as voting for any type of political candidate you don't agree with, or so on and so forth. You are voting with your dollar. You are endorsing them. You're giving them your money, saying, keep giving me this product, keep making this product. The way we starve the system is going back to how it's supposed to be. And quit with the excuses. That's literally the only thing that's holding us back is the fear and uncertainty that comes from this. And I joke because eventually I'm going to have a giant ass sign that says, sometimes you lose and sometimes you learn. And that's the epitome of what homesteading is there is no real guide or a guidebook or manual to this. But it's in our nature to tend and be stewards of creation. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. It's just taking that leap of faith, not being scared, realizing you can do it. Whether it's growing and raising your own or supporting those that do. That's ultimately what it comes down to. I
love that. Sometimes you lose and sometimes you learn.
Yeah, sometimes you lose, sometimes you learn. And it's huge. Even now, I get goosebumps just saying it because there's been hard times. It really has, like losing calves or just weird, crazy things that happen when you run an actual operational farm or even homestead. You deal with death, you deal with loss, you deal with frustrations and hurt. And ultimately, you can see the difference in our society where we have gone away from people in farming society or farming cultures. We're not like that. We're not built like that anymore. To where you have a person who has the dexterity or the grit, the toughness of the olden days. Like the saying was in the military that they would always look and go to the outer sticks to recruit because they wanted the farm boys to join the military. And that's because of the ethos, work ethic, so on and so forth, and just the overall environment you're involved with when you're a farmer or in a farming environment.
Sometimes you lose, sometimes you learn. That's one of the best things I've heard because it really is true.
Absolutely.
Somebody's like, well, sometimes you lose and sometimes you win. No, sometimes you lose and sometimes you learn.
Absolutely.
And a lot of our losses and, the things we deal with that are tough in our life are losses, but you learn from that and it makes you stronger and it makes you, it makes you more capable of putting that one foot in front of the other and moving forward because you guys have been called to do something and you're doing it.
Absolutely.
And the losses you guys have experienced has not slowed you down. You keep putting that foot in front of the other because you've learned from the losses. And at the same time, you're winning by doing it too, because I think that's how, actually, I know that's how folks build character. I mean, I don't know that God puts things in front of us to lose intentionally, but he uses those things for us to learn from those losses to make us stronger and make us be able to be a bigger witness, a stronger witness in this world to folks who don't understand that very basic concept of sometimes you lose and sometimes you learn. That's a beautiful statement, dude. That is awesome. I got a little goosebumpy myself.
Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, we recently had a huge blow to us, and both of me and Carrie were just standing in the barn, just speechless, and we didn't know what to do. We were just completely distraught and broken. And it's just the only thing I could think of was just peaks and valleys, and exactly that. Sometimes you lose, but sometimes you learn as well. So. And that's my biggest thing is you just can't be afraid. You got to do it. We have to stop with the excuses. Otherwise, it's going to be the end of us. So if the goal is for us to thrive and survive, then we have to return. We have to go back. We have to go to our roots. We have to go to the garden and align ourselves again with the Creator as we are supposed to. And that's our mission field, our statements, our beliefs, and our ethos. It's all around that. Yeah, because like I said, I'm from Chicago. What's my excuse? I didn't grow up doing this. Same with Carrie. I mean, she worked on a farm, but this wasn't her thing per se. So it's just taking that chance. It's just being bold, being the black sheep, and making it happen and going for it.
And knowing who's got your back along the way. You're going to learn along the way. And that's one of the coolest things about being a Christian to me is just knowing who's got my back. You know, there's things that's going to happen along the way, you know, that suck.
Right. Yeah.
It sucks sometimes living in this life. It sucks. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, guess who's still standing there with you?
Absolutely.
Some of your friends or your family, you know, go away or whatever. Or they're not standing there with you, but guess who's still standing there with you? That's one of my favorite things about being a Christian is just at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because I know who's still standing there with me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Through the thick and thin, no matter what.
And you're going to figure some stuff out along the way, and because you know who's got your back.
Right. Absolutely.
If we all just quit because shit got tough,
right,
we wouldn't get anything done.
Right.
Because shit gets tough. Shit gets tough, man.
Shit gets tough. And that's the hardest part about it is that this is going to be tough. Regardless of what you do, but especially what we're talking about here today, it's going to be tough. If you try to return to your roots, it's going to be tough. And we can't be afraid, but we are terrified of change, terrified of the what ifs, terrified of falling or failing. I don't know. God did not make us to be like that. We're meant to be world changers, game changers, and myself, Carrie, and our children. We are trying to build a quiver full of strong, straight, sharp arrows. And whether people outside of our community or outside of our farm or even members in our farm, with our farm, if they adhere to what we say, that's awesome. But ultimately what we're trying to make sure is that our kids in our quiver are locked and loaded, and they can be the ones that make the change and lead the pack, if you will. So
I love that, you know, and it's just something I've learned along the way too. Because when I first started changing my ideals on government and stuff, and moving from neoconservatism to Christian pacifist. I mean that's quite a leap. I lost some very dear friends along the way. Some very homeboys, they just did not understand what I was talking about. But along the way, I found some new homeboys.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? I found some new homeboys that understand what I'm saying. They've got my back too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one thing that's been the coolest thing about this project is seeing how that happens. You know, I could feel like I'm alone in the world if I've lost somebody who doesn't want to talk to me anymore because of my stance. That's cool. I got some new homeboys that want to hear what I have to say, and we can sit down, have a cup of coffee, drink a beer, whatever, and talk about this stuff. And I think that's beautiful. And I maybe that's a good way to end this show, man. Let you get back to your family and go milk some cows or whatever. I mean, I'd like for you to kind of one more question. And I know you guys are in Michigan. Is there something that, like, if somebody wanted to get something from you guys that's not in Michigan, or y'all are just pretty much local, is there anything that like folks could get from you guys? Like, I'm in Tennessee. If I wanted to get something from you guys, is that possible? Or is it just basically local type stuff?
From time to time, we carry merch. If you see here, I'm showing you. We have this in store from time to time, and we can ship it. But really, aside from that, we just offer our big component is our micro dairy. So it's just the raw milk, and we have a store. We have a store outside that we stock and store our raw milk, our eggs, and routinely sometimes other things, but for the majority, like you said, it's mostly local. So
we've got listeners in Michigan. So if you're in Michigan, man, look up Copperhead Hill Farms and go get some raw milk.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Well, tell us where to find you, your website, and we're connected on social media as well. So tell folks where they can find you, because I'd like for, even if you're not Michigan listeners, check Copperhead Hill Farms out, because they're doing a lot of good. And even if you're not in Michigan, you can support them just by going to liking their Facebook page or telling folks who you know might be in Michigan about their farm, and just help these folks out, because they're doing a lot of good. They're doing what they're called to do. And I think that's the coolest aspect about what you guys are doing. Y'all recognize what God has called y'all to do, and you're putting that one foot forward and doing that. Sometimes you lose and sometimes you learn, but go ahead and tell us about your website and where folks can find you, and I'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So like Craig said, we are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, all under Copperhead Hill Farms. Find us there. I am most active on the Facebook page, quite a bit as of recent. And then our website is copperheadhillfarms.com. And there you can find anything and everything about us, anything we talked about today, about our herd share and the ability to be able to contact us, email us, so on and so forth. So yeah, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me/us on this podcast. We greatly appreciate it. I am thankful to be a part of this and really support what you're doing, and happy to be part of this community now formally, since it's taken 4 years to make this happen. So
yeah, that's probably my fault. I mean, I get sidetracked and stuff, but like, we've been doing it for so long now that I've got stuff planned to interview folks on the show, and then I get busy. Like I said, I work 6 nights a week, and now I'm making salsa and stuff. So the Bad Roller Project is a byproduct of what I believe, and so you talk about putting one foot in front of the other. It's something that we've done with this project. It's not just the podcast. It's just getting that message out there of no king but Christ. When you take a stand, take a bold stance, and I've been preaching this a lot lately, and I don't like using the word preaching, but saying this a lot lately, we've got to start being more bold in our stance when it comes to this stuff, and not cower down, because I am confident in what we believe here. Everybody that works on this project is confident in our messaging here. We don't back down from what we believe, and we're not going to mince any words about it. Doesn't mean we don't love you along the way. But if you're going to come at us or come at Copperhead Hill Farms with some questions, you better expect the truth, and expect what you're hearing from us is going to be the truth, because we're not going to mince any words, because we're very confident in what we believe. And I think Christians need to really start taking that stand more. And it doesn't mean being brash or overbearing or authoritarian or whatever. It means just speaking the truth like Jesus did. When they asked Jesus questions, what did he do? He told them the truth. And if you're telling them the truth, you ain't got nothing to worry about. They can either receive it or reject it. That's on them. And the only thing you can do is just tell them the truth. Anyway, I'm fixing to go on another rant, and I don't want to keep you too much longer.
I told you I clear my schedule for you, so we can.
Well, yeah, I just think that's important, and I'm going to keep saying that more and more. And we have our discussion group Zoom calls once a month, and I was talking about it this last time around. I was like, we've got to start being more bold.
Be bold,
and that does not mean beating people over the head with stuff.
Right.
What I mean is when somebody asks you what you believe and why you behave the way you believe or behave the way you behave, tell them the truth. Tell them why you do it.
Exactly.
Not because you're saying they have to do it. This is why you do it. And when they recognize that there's no wishy-washiness, I can't stand wishy-washy, man. I cannot stand wishy-washiness.
I hear it.
When I recognize wishy-washiness, I walk away. I don't have time for that.
Right, I hear you.
There's something that we have to do. We have to be talking about very boldly about, and that's no king but Christ. And we have to do that without any kind of reservation about it.
Oh, yeah.
The early church did it. And guess what? They got killed for it. And I'm not recommending go out there and try to get killed by the government. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm recommending, or I don't hope that for anybody. But understand that you're going to be hated by folks, and that's okay. It's okay, because you got some homeboys in the corner over here that do appreciate what you're doing.
Right, absolutely. Let's go, baby. I hear it.
Man, Mike, I really appreciate this, and I guess next time I'm going to talk to your wife. I'm going to get Carrie on the show next time.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I'll take care of the circus.
Tell her I said hi, man. I appreciate y'all's support. I appreciate y'all. Being part of y'all are part of the Bad Roman Project, whether you know it or not. I mean, somebody posted in our Facebook group about a book he's written, and he felt weird about it. I was like, don't feel weird about it, man. This is a project. This is not my group. This is not my thing. This is a project, and you're part of it. This is about no king but Christ. This is about Jesus, and this is about going back to our roots. Who is Jesus? Let's go.
Boom, baby. Gonna get you saying that now. Let's go.
All right, buddy. I'm gonna let you get out of here, man, and go back to maybe go give your wife a break with them kids.
Yeah, I will. All right. I appreciate you big time. Again, thank you for your time, and thanks for letting us be here and bump gums and shoot the shit with you. So
we'll do it again. All right, buddy. I'm gonna let you get out of here.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Bad Roman Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcasts to never miss an episode. And while you're at it, if you like what you heard, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, it really helps people find us. 100% of donations are given to local charities in Memphis, Tennessee. To learn more about the Bad Roman Project and to find show notes, please visit thebadroman.com.